Welcome to another episode of the Beat On Podcast. I'm your co-host, Don the Piz Elevert, joined as always by,
Justin Jericho Turner.
and we are two former college roommates getting together a couple decades later to talk about life, business, media, culture, entertainment, and everything in between. Let's go. Fashionable at all times. You came extra today. Tell people
Yeah,
what before we even get into what you're drinking in your giant man goblet that you always have. What is up with the outfit? I love it.
I'm rocking black owned, which if y'all know me, it's a thing for me, and I'll take us a little bit off on a little bit of a tangent. Just buy black, America. You don't have to be black to buy black. Like, just help us out. We need all your money. All right. Um, I'm rocking I got a poncho, West African print with a hood. I got the headband joint, which is also from another black-owned vendor. Um,
Hmm.
so I wanted to come hard today because I knew, just for the people, we are recording on Mother's Day. Although it will be after Mother's Day by the time y'all hear our lovely voices. Um, it, it it's a it's a complicated day for me because I lost my mom 6 years ago. But I've gotten to a point now where, I think it's important to remember all the mothers, because we're in that age group now where a lot of our friends are mothers now. And then, it's why this country hates women so much starts to get on my nerves. Like it gets under my skin in a way that we've talked about this on the pod before. America hates women more than it hates any other group. And it doesn't feel that way because that's how America has intended for it. It's like the gaslighting from day one. America's the land of the free. We're good to women, except America does its best to subjugate half of the country, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But that's the energy I was in, and I just wanted to get. I was super militant when I woke up this morning, Piz. So I was like, all right,
I
when we
feel you.
record, I'm coming with that. I'm coming with that black fire.
I feel you. I mean, you always come with that black fire, but you definitely you bring in that like that I guess that blue flame today. Isn't that
Yeah,
when it's like extra
when
hot?
it's hot, right,
But
right, right.
first off, um um rest in power to your mom, who I had the pleasure of meeting once back in the day. I believe at back in Left Rack, actually back at your
Yeah,
crib
yeah.
once when I came and
Back in the
kicked it
crib.
there. Um, Shout out to my mom. Shout out to my sister, who's a mom, and all the moms in my life. I can't get to everybody, but those are two important ones I want to shout out. But I think you bring up a great point. I think when Mother's Day comes around, a lot of the time what we forget is the moms who aren't here. In fact, I was right before we're recording. My partner was just telling me that she's actually going up to hang out and with a friend of hers who is feeling a little down today because her mom also passed away years ago. So that's a forgotten thing about Mother's Day. As much as we celebrate, there's a lot of people who it brings a lot of emotion for. And we even had a conversation where I wasn't even sure if you'd want to record on this day, but for the reasons you just said, I know you're gonna power through and do this. So, but definitely want to give a shout out to all the moms who are here and all the moms up above, especially like you said in this. I have no idea why we're dealing with a situation where mothers and motherhood is under attack or in some controversy in our modern day society in the US once again, but you know, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, before we get heavy, what you got today in your goblet, son?
This is it's another pastry stout. It's chocolate crumb cake pastry stout. Very good. Not quite as sweet
Chocolate
and
crumb cake.
thick. It's
Weren't you
still
drinking
dessert.
fuzzy Wuzzy Willy Wonka last Chocolate Factory last week?
I definitely was. I definitely was. The title was a tongue twister. It definitely was. That shit was mad thick. Like I if y'all listen, I know a lot of people listen to us, but go on to YouTube and just take a look at that shit because it left a film like from the top of the glass all the way down. I had to chew the bottom of my beer, America. Like
Yeah.
that's wild. That's wild.
This
This is
one looks
it's not
more like
yeah.
yeah, this one looks more standardized. Like that to me, I'm like, oh, you're actually drinking a stout or of some sort right now.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
got there though? Because I know you just kicked COVID, so
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of what, one of the reasons why, to let people know, one of the reasons why we're recording on a Sunday is because we were supposed to record days ago, but I believe it was our very first episode, not our pilot episode, but episode 1 of the
mm,
Beat On podcast that we recorded after the holidays, and I was talking about probably jinxed myself by talking about how I dodged and played that Matumbo level defense on that Omicron back in December. Um, that Omarion, as I affectionately called it. But then there's these variants out here now. They got that stealth Omarion that I started to calling the Omari Hardwick because that joint is so strong and
because
stealthy. That's
it's
no
strong as
disrespect
stuff.
to Omari Hardwick because it's strong and stealthy.
Right.
And you know me, I'm strong, but I'm not quick. So anything stealthy makes me nervous. And it got me. It got me. It got me. I I'm someone who despite the fact that I'm vaccinated, I'm boosted, I had the OG COVID like a year and a half, 2 years ago when I don't even know how long this pandemic's been going on anymore.
Right.
And I got boosted in February, but whatever. I just throw this out there, a warning to people. What is the one that's going around now? I found out since got it. I already found out about like half a dozen people in my world of peoples who got it. Like, watch out, this one is coming fierce and it's busting through immune systems. So I told myself that I told myself that I wouldn't have alcohol until I test negative and got all that um ghost particles for those that watch Power out of my system. So I actually don't have an alcoholic beverage, which you don't need to have an alcoholic beverage to have fun. In fact, I'm still drinking sexy, my man. I got beet juice, carrot juice, celery juice, and ginger all in one. It's called a detox juice.
Ah, that's good.
My only beef is they filter it a little too much at some of these spots. I didn't make it myself, so it doesn't have as much of that pulp as I
Need
like.
that.
But
Need that pulp. Need that
yeah, but
pulp.
right now, beyond more than the fiber, I need the vitamins and minerals. So I'm getting those into the system. And we here. I'm here. I'm alive. I can talk.
Word.
And in my opinion, I'm drinking responsibly in terms of, we usually hear just drink responsibly in terms of not drinking and driving, but there's drinking responsibly in terms of the actual vehicle that you drive in life, which is your body, your
Right.
temple. So I think there's no way to drink sexier than drinking responsibly. I got COVID, but I was lucky enough to get COVID after my 25th high school reunion. Shout out to Regis High School. I want to give a quick shout out to a few peeps. My man who listened to us religiously that I was talking to at high school reunion. My man Osterman, my man Benson, and my man Harold. I'm sure they'll probably hear this because they listen all the time. And when I was talking to them, one of them reminded me, "Yo, we said we were going to do another dirty word segment. And we specifically said we were going to talk about a dirty word, science.
Oh
And I
no.
think today is a good time to talk about this dirty word because this is going to come back around later in this episode, but so we need to lay some groundwork. And so, Justin, why has science become a dirty word?
Ooh, science. All right. Well, we all know that in this country, our political atmosphere has become toxic. And so anything that falls into our political atmosphere then is also poisoned. And once science fell into the political sphere, it got sullied, man. And I mean, science has been controversial, right, throughout human history. There are things that were established norms that were then challenged and improved otherwise. Science in and of itself, as a word, I'm not Webster, but I think I can define it. It's how we explain things, right? It's how we explain the things that happen in our world, the things that happen in our bodies, the things that happen in our universe. Science in and of itself is fine. That's not the problem. It's the application of science that has become the problem. And so you have politicians who have all of a sudden become scientific experts, making all kinds of claims that they are not qualified to make. And we have a citizenry that is becoming increasingly reliant on social media for their knowledge, which of course feeds into science becoming a dirty word. Because if someone who's popular, let's say, I don't know, a musician from a Caribbean country, for example, I won't name this person, who says that someone in her family, his balls shriveled up because he got a vaccine, then you have a bunch of people who support that artist who then think that the vaccine shrivels your balls. That's what science has become. It's become an unfortunate rumor mill that is supported by thousands of people on social media. And politicians have taken advantage of this. Russian bots have taken advantage of this because we all know that the disinformation campaign that Russia led in our last election, they took advantage of American ignorance and they pumped a lot of bullshit into our social media atmosphere. People didn't even know that they were arguing with Russian robots, right? So there's this concept of science that has become sullied. Science in and of itself still functions just fine for everyone, right? All the same people who are denying basic proven stuff, like our boy that we rip up, Kyrie, all the time, talking about the earth is flat. People that are challenging that kind of stuff, they still, like, I'll take it real basic, right? They wake up in the morning, they put toothpaste on their toothbrush, right? Toothpaste was invented by a scientist, okay? There was a scientist who decided, oh, we could put fluoride in a paste because that won't kill you in small amounts if you put it in your mouth. And that, my friends, is science, right? So, not to rip on Kyrie specifically, but all right, you don't believe in science? Don't brush your teeth. All right? Don't do basic shit that science is proven to be safe for us, because you have decided that, science isn't a real thing. You can't pick and choose which things that are proven and then decide without a fucking science degree to just disprove them because you have decided to do that. That is how science becomes a dirty word. And between me and you, Don Pizzle, I have had so many conversations with ignorant ass Americans over the past 2 years over scientific things that even me, like, I consider myself to be a relatively intelligent person, Don, right? I'm looking shit up after I'm talking to people like, was I wrong? because they're so confident in their bullshit that I actually question things that I know to be fact. And then I look them up and I feel a little bit better. But then after that moment, I'm like, wait, nah, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with that. Like I shouldn't even have the instinct to do that. But that's what has happened to us. So I believe that until we can find a way to remove the dirt from science, it's just going to get progressively worse because we already know there are holes in our educational system. We already know that there are people who have decided I don't need to know these things because they don't affect my life directly. Therefore, I'm not going to pay any attention to them. Right. And that,
Mhm.
willful ignorance has really played a part in a lot of the deaths that have taken place in the last 2 years over
Yeah.
a number of topics.
I actually, you just touched on one of my fears. I'm going to get on it back to science in a second, but one of my fears about what might happen is what you just said, because what we're seeing with happen in the educational system with history, where things that become politicized, then people take that politicization. Whew, it's a hard one
Yeah.
to spit out.
Yeah.
Politicization of it, and if you've thrown that into gotten that involved in our educational system to not teach certain things, I'm highly concerned as someone who I did everything possible to my education, my college education was centered around science. I was planning on going on to med school after school. I did all the pre-med stuff and I focused on one of the reasons I loved Amherst was I could we didn't have the what is it called, the
Common
prerequisites or
Core.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Common Core. You could focus on stuff. While a lot of people went there to focus on the actual liberal arts, I oddly went there to not have to take as many history and literary courses and philosophy courses, and wanted to take just science courses because that was always my shtick.
And then
Um,
you took Orgo, and then
but
we had another conversation.
yo, I did fine in Orgo, man.
I'm, fuck,
I
I'm,
did fine in Orgo.
I'm fucking with you, man. Yeah.
But in any case, that's a fear of mine is what happens then when people start taking this stuff and using it as a reason to like dial back on the science we teach. That's going to get real concerning. But going back to your question, while you were talking and going ham on that one, because I know you're digging in when you called me Don like 3 times while you were
Oh, I
talking,
did. Oh,
and you
that's when
never
I'm
actually
serious.
call me Don.
It's true.
So you must have been real serious.
That's when I'm
But
serious.
um, here's a definition of science that you were looking for:
Okay.
knowledge or a system of knowledge. Oh, first of all, by Merriam-Webster, because that's who I use as my general reference for all things pronunciation in the voiceover world and general things like where would we be without my man Merriam-Webster, or woman, man, non-binary?
I think it's
I
two
have no
men.
idea.
I'm pretty sure
I have
it's
no idea
two
who
two
Merriam or
people.
Webster are. All right. Anyway, knowledge or a system of knowledge covering general truths or the operation of general laws, especially as obtained and tested through scientific method. Okay. Now I'm going to go on to scientific method. Principles and procedures for the systematic pursuit of knowledge involving the recognition and formulation of a problem, the collection of data through observation and experiment, and the formulation and testing of hypotheses. Reason I wanted to look that up and read it beyond the fact that you asked it is I was mentioned before that I was at my high school reunion, right? I believe I probably mentioned this before, but the high school I went to, Regis High School, that's where Dr. Fauci went. And we're for the most part, the majority of us are hugely proud of Dr. Fauci. In fact, in my reunion, in the school shop, where they encourage alum to go spend as much money as possible in addition to donations that they get from alum, they were selling some humorous like Dr. Fauci shirts that were, I think they had his jersey number from when he was a point guard on our basketball squad.
Nice.
So um so one of the issues I had when I started seeing people out here really talking about Dr. Fauci is evil and this and that he's stupid and like but the reason when I had some of those conversations you had where I was trying to understand what are people talking about with this, it boiled down to that they were saying that he said one thing one day, or by him, they a lot of time they actually meant the CDC. They said
Right.
one thing one day and a different thing later, so they're idiots. And this
Right.
is where I'm like, okay, I'm starting to think that maybe I did a lot more labs because I was so focused on science, in high school and college than other people. Like I'm trying to figure out why is it that people don't realize like a lot of the science that we deal with in real life, I think, is people are accustomed to dealing with old science, which is so
Yes.
old that it's been proven so substantially that and replicated so substantially that it doesn't change as much, right? Like toothpaste, like you're talking, great example. Like people aren't afraid of toothpaste because toothpaste has been being used for a long time. But go back however many hundreds of thousands of years ago, somebody one day had to be like, "Yo, bro, put this joint in your mouth, brush it around, gargle it, let it foam up, but don't swallow it because then your orange juice and pineapple juice are going to taste real nasty." Okay. So you ever done that, by the way? You ever made the mistake of brush your teeth and then drink orange juice?
Yeah,
That shit is disgusting.
it's really gross. I don't like science. Some scientists tell us why that works. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's some science I need to know. But my point is that I think what I've started to realize, I think people who aren't scientifically inclined, and I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt here. I think what we realize is there's a lot of people that aren't scientifically inclined that were the opposite of me and did everything possible to probably dodge those science classes and not have to be in those labs. So you don't
Absolutely.
realize that like I think they don't realize as much, some of those people, that new science is about hypothesis, experimentation, test, proof, and then repetition to ensure that you can consistently generate the same results to determine something. When you're dealing with something like we were dealing with the pandemic, where you got a new virus and vaccines and illnesses and protocols around all that stuff, you've got to deal with what you have as it comes along in terms of scientific method and determinations, and understand that shit is going to change as you learn more. And that doesn't mean that people are idiots. It means that they are applying scientific method to a real life problem in real time. Like, for instance, first time around that I had COVID, they said 10-day quarantine period. Now that joint is down to 5 days because they've been able to do more tests to determine what the timeline for being contagious and shedding virus is, right? Things of that nature change over time. I don't consider people being idiots or wrong for that. I consider them being applying the knowledge that they have in from academic study, and then using that as cautiously as possible to allow us to be able to gain some ground based on the knowledge we have and improve upon that as we go along.
Yes, there are people who are taking advantage of their work, but the scientists are the good guys, folks. Stop hating on
Mm-hmm.
Fauci. Leave Fauci alone.
Leave Fauci alone. Shout out Regis.
Word. Word.
We opened up talking about Mother's Day, and we said we know there's all this talk related to the concept of motherhood, and that is a scientific element along with a moral element, along with an ethical element, along with a religious element, along with a political element. It is complicated as hell. Before we even address that, I got a question for you.
Okay.
And this pertains to more than this topic of women's rights and abortion and all that, but I'm just kind of curious, why is it why do you think people feel the need? Why do some people you think feel the need to tell other people how to live their lives? Just as a general sentiment. And I'm not throwing this out there to be like an instigator. This is something I started delving into, my mind started wandering on, because as if anybody who listens to this podcast knows, like, I try to not look at all of these issues when they pop up in, like, I try not to be a prisoner of the moment, but look at how it falls into the landscape of the general theme in society. There's a lot of things that go on where people feel the need to tell other people how they live their lives. And I understand when it has to do with stuff that could potentially harm you, that other people are doing. I'm talking about when someone else is doing something that has no potential short-term or long-term negative ramification on you, your family, your friends, your life, your job, anything to do with you. But some people can't help themselves but have to dictate how other people live their lives. Why do you think that is?
I mean, my answer for things like that is almost always religion. And before we had systems of laws that were enforced by governmental entities, we had religious laws. And without laws, human beings are lawless, right? By nature. Um, and so religion in its early days served as a way to regulate society, right? You do right things, you live right, and you will be rewarded in the afterlife. And if you do wrong things and you live wrongly, then you will be punished in the afterlife. And that fear of punishment then becomes the equivalent for us to a fear of being arrested or being punished by our government. So when you take the religion laws aspect and you apply it to a modern society, what you have is people who think that they have a moral authority to tell other people what to do based on things that they think they know. The problem is
Mhm.
a lot of the things that they think that they know, they don't actually know. And I'm speaking specifically about the Abrahamic religions, right? We're talking Judaism, Islam, Christianity. There are some people who actually know how to practice their religions. I'm not going to, badmouth everyone, right? But there are some people who have been thoroughly brainwashed by human beings, not by religious doctrine, but by their religious leaders, whoever they are, all right? Their rabbi, their imam, their priest, whoever they have been listening to. That's a person. And if that person just happens to have an ideology, then that ideology will work its way into his religious instruction. And then you grow up thinking that that stuff is actually based in religion when it isn't. It's actually based in the ideology of the human being who taught you. And so oftentimes that kind of energy works its way into the way that I interact with other people. So I have to tell you that you're wrong because you don't believe certain things the way that they're supposed to be believed. Like
Hmm.
the best example I have is the way that modern day Catholics have issues with their own pope, right?
Hmm.
Because the pope is actually trying to practice that religion the way it feels like it's supposed to be practiced, the way it was practiced in history. And that is antithetical to modern day practice of the religion, which is inherently hypocritical.
Hmm.
So they take issue with things like, the Pope is not nearly as anti-gay as they want him to be, right? The Pope is not nearly as we'll call it. I'll just use conservative for lack of a better way to put it. So directly to your point, I feel like there are people who exist who think that they know better because they were
Hmm.
taught by someone who told them these things. And I emphasize the word think because oftentimes they don't actually know better. They just think they do.
So a couple of things to what you had to say there. I ag- again mentioning that I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school my whole life until college. I I consider myself a Christian or hold the Christian beliefs, and don't I don't go the direction that you just went in terms of blaming religion directly. And I don't know, and I think you actually touched upon as in your elaboration of how more of how I feel, which is I think the problem is that religion, the same way a lot of these topics we talk about are, we've talked about the theme of how a lot of stuff is political theater, and a lot of topics that are easy targets for divisiveness are often used in politics, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the more that, funny enough, the more that I've been narrating a lot of recently, a lot of history lessons for school that I've talked about, that I spent a lot of time narrating that during the week stuff. I a lot of the more and more that you read all of these lessons, you get reminded that wow, religion, it's not that religion itself is evil. Most religions are beautiful and teach the same loving things at their core. Religion
Thank
has
you.
been used through history. Religion has been politicized and tainted by humans throughout history as a means of galvanizing people to feel better about some of the evils that they were doing when going out and conquering other people.
Right.
And it's been used as a means of galvanizing people for war, justifying all these other political things, where people at the top have pretended, knowing very well that they didn't care much about religion, but use religion as the symbol to get people to riled up and to follow them. And so that's
Yes.
why I said I kind of cringe when I hear religion taking the blame for some of these things, because I understand where that sentiment that you're expressing is coming from, but I know that it's not religion. It's religion that's been tainted by humans over time for specific means, specific evil intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on that. Now, moving on to my thought about why some people feel the need to tell other people out their lives. Something I started thinking about more and more, and it kind of relates back to this science thing, right? So science has been one of the greatest aspects of human evolution is our ability to master science around us in our environment, right?
Yes.
And what that has created is a situation where many humans have had the privilege of growing up in a world where they are far removed as a result of science from basic survival needs. What? Food, shelter, water, right? Those are the basic needs. And I think and this is just my own theory, but I think that the further people get away from the basic survival needs, the more bored they get in life and search for ways to make life meaningful to them. Like, this is why you see, like, why is it that you see such high rates of, depression, unhappiness. And I'm not talking about all, like, depression is sourced from this. Like, it's much more complicated than that. But I'm saying in some instances, in like where we've talked about this before, where we both observed that in some quote unquote third world countries, people seem happier at times, right? Where those people are actually dealing with more basic survival needs on a daily basis. But I think that, and for many, that it turns into that boredom from not having to even work for your survival anymore, I think leads to them trying to figure out and find meaning for life into them. And that's when they become susceptible to those individuals that I was talking about, who, knowing that weakness that is falling in people who are searching for meaning in their lives, know that they can galvanize them through using religion as a cover-up for getting those people to be the ones to do some of the legwork of trying to dictate how other people should live their lives. If it was just religion and you were just worried about how it affects the afterlife, why are some people so concerned about other people who they don't give a damn about going to heaven with them?
Right.
Right. For how selfish people are about everything else in life. People don't give a damn for the most part about anybody else. In fact, people in our society, again, in a capitalistic society, which is basically based on competition, people spend their life competing to be better than, to have more than the other person. Say that you have more than the other person, until it comes to people not going to heaven with you. And then suddenly you're like, oh no, I need to make sure that all these people that I've been spending my whole time on earth trying to have more than and trying to keep them down, but I want to make sure they come along for the ride. So I got to tell them how to live their lives so they come along and come up to heaven with me, right? Isn't that weird? To me, that's just illogical thinking.
The following is a public service announcement from your friends at the Beatorm Podcast. Because we care about you, the public. We're committed to service. And we just love making announcements.
you and I are both aware that the majority of our righteous media listeners consider themselves independents and free thinkers who don't like to be part of the partisan political agendas at play in our society, right?
Yeah.
So, I want to get back now. I want to finally talk about this. I guess this Roe v. Wade issue that's popped up in our society, but I want to discuss it on a level that falls back on my major back at Amherst, which is one of the sciences, psychology. Are you familiar with the phrase cognitive dissonance?
Yeah, I am.
What
in
does
fact.
cognitive dissonance mean to you when I say that?
It's like a state of, we'll call it mental confusion, where you hold on to two contrary ideas simultaneously. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once again, this one I actually looked up before the pod, so they did some work again. Here, the definition by Merriam-Webster of cognitive dissonance: psychological conflict resulting from incongruous beliefs and attitudes held simultaneously.
Ah,
So
look at that.
pretty much what you said there. Bravo, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, you should be a teacher.
I know, right? Somebody should pay me to educate the youths.
Yeah. So anyway, why do I bring this up? I think it's important to understand cognitive dissonance for many things. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while because it's going to come up. It's a theme that's in the backdrop of a lot of the topics we talk about. Cognitive dissonance is important because it explains why, in my opinion, being hypocritical is a very strange thing. It's very strange for people to exhibit hypocritical behaviors and actions, because that means that you are likely causing internal conflict in your own brain. And if internal conflict resulting from cognitive dissonance doesn't actually affect you and make you stop and shift and change in some way, then I don't know if I can hang with you, because it means you're prone to erratic and inconsistent decision making and actions.
Right.
Because somehow you're immune to cognitive dissonance. And I actually feel the opposite. I am hypersensitive to cognitive dissonance in my own brain.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see it happening around me. So that's why I've said it many times on this pod. I don't give a damn if you got opinions that are different from mine. Great. I feel like those are learning experiences, because at some point I'm going to be proven wrong and learn that, wow, my opinion about something was off, and I need to level up. However,
yeah, hit him with the however. Yeah.
I can't level up and learn and shift and change my opinion when your opinions about things aren't consistent with the previous opinion you expressed about something else. That, to me, it just shows a lack of a common level of logic that we need to agree upon in order to have ongoing discussions with each other. And I think that's why you and I can have ongoing discussions, because, like, we, for the most part, are consistent, even in the stuff that we may not agree about. We're consistent with our disagreements or about things that we're going to do.
And we learn from each other too. So, that's an important element of it, right? Like, have an ability to evolve in your thinking.
Yeah. So now hold on to that thought, because I'm going to come back to this whole cognitive dissonance thing. So I'm finally going to talk about a couple of these things. And now, first of all, I want to talk about this whole Roe v. Wade topic that has somehow come back up in society. But I want to talk about it. Before you and I can talk about it, we need to acknowledge one very important thing.
Yeah.
You and I are both men.
Right. We happen to have
right?
male genitalia. We identify as men. We use male pronouns. Go ahead.
So I don't necessarily think that I don't think our opinions on a moral or ethical level bear substantial weight, or should bear substantial weight, to the degree that some men want their opinion away. Like, from an allyship standpoint, we should become more informed of the issues at hand for women and women in our lives. And again, I'm trying to discuss this from a standpoint of, I'm not telling you what opinion to have, but we as men, this is one that we need to do more listening, more learning, and less enforcing of telling women how they should feel about this topic that affects them way more directly than us.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to now going back to the term pro-life.
Okay.
So
Excellent branding,
the term,
by the way, Republicans.
exactly where I'm going with this. Thank you. So
Okay.
pro-life, in terms of the phrase, from a purely marketing standpoint, I think it is a great strategic political tagline because it causes cognitive dissonance in you as a human being if you don't support it.
Right. Right.
Because you start saying you with that, you're not saying this out loud. This is subconscious. People need to realize this cognitive dissonance stuff is very subconscious, powerful stuff. Does it mean that I'm against life? That's powerful psychology at play. This
Yeah.
is beautiful, and this isn't even our politicians now. This is decades and decades ago when this stuff first came up. Beautiful use of terminology for political standpoint, because it's essentially targeting anyone who harbors quote unquote pro-life beliefs for their own decisions, but who may believe that freedom of personal choice supersedes that. And convincing those people that subconsciously that those two philosophies can't coexist,
Right.
thus creating cognitive dissonance in the minds of those individuals if they choose the quote unquote pro-choice side. You see what I did there with laying the groundwork of this cognitive dissonance stuff on you? There's a method to my madness, my man.
I see it.
So it's the strategic phraseology around all of this and the subsequent psychological warfare at play that I find both fascinating. When I say fascinating, I don't mean like, it's not that I'm entertained by the arguments that are going on, but like, again, because of my love of science and psychology, I find it fascinating and problematic, right? In fact, I think it would be wise, and many people, we already do this already, but I think it would be wise if the people on the pro-choice side of things stop falling into the trap of referring to people on the other side of the debate as pro-life, since the majority of people on the other side very much value life as well. So, what I think we can do now that you and I have been having this banter, this fairly serious banter, and we as much as we like to keep it serious, this is still BDORM, bro, and we can't get too serious. So, I think we can have some fun holding other men accountable who feel the need to chime in and dictate to women one way or the other what they should or shouldn't do. So, I'd like to introduce a new segment called the Hypocrisy Checklist. I actually wanted to call this the nerdy side of me wanted to call this the cognitive dissonance checklist, but I feel like that's not catchy. That's not very catchy. Talking about strategic marketing.
Too many words.
So we're going to call it the hypocrisy checklist. So I'm going to start out with one. I want you to throw them out there as they come to you, my man, here. Because I obviously...
a hypocrite?
If is you a hypocrite? If I like to so shout out to my sisters, Natalie and Amy, when I was talking about when I was saying that men need to listen to women, before I even decided for myself whether I thought we should broach this topic at all, I had a long conversation with my sisters about how you and I as men can have a conversation about this. So they started this hypocrisy checklist with me, but I'm not going to go in any particular order. But just I got their blessing on talking about some of this stuff. So, and anyway, the first one we've seen a lot of the memes about this, and this one's a little serious. It gets into the vaccination thing, and again, we've talked about this before. I got no problem if you're an anti-vaxxer as long as you understand the social accountability that comes with your existence and role that you can play in human society as a result of your choice, right? We talked about that before. What I do got a problem with is if you were someone who was anti-vax and your reason for being anti-vax, your justification is that the government can't dictate what to do to your body for the protection of others' lives.
Right.
Great. That's your philosophy. You can have that philosophy. I don't hate you for that philosophy. you just best to not be telling women what to do with their bodies for the protection of someone else's life, because that makes you
Hypocrite.
a hypocrite. Thank you. Hypocrisy checklist number 1. Now we move on to some of these are going to be serious, some will be a little more lighthearted, right? So that's an example where
if
yeah, because in my opinion, you better care as much about lives that already exist on this planet as those that are not existing yet independently and self-sufficiently from their creator, their physical creator, not their spiritual creator in God, depending on your beliefs, right?
mm-hmm.
But their biological creator. So next one I got. Another argument that comes into this whole thing when I'm listening to all sides. Again, I grew up a Christian, learned all the Christian lessons about the miracle of life. And what makes it so complicated as a Christian for all this is going back to science. Science, no matter all the testing they do, science can't figure out for us and define for us when life begins. That is one of the most miraculous unknowns. And that is what complicates this topic to such a degree which is why I don't even want to get into what our personal opinions are one way or the other. But again, just hold people accountable to the hypocrisy. If you fall back on the argument of life starts at the cellular level from a scientific basis, right? I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. If that's, I mean, I'm with you on. Okay, I'm with you. Let me dial it back. I'm with you on your attempt to apply some scientific understanding of how cellular multiplication occurs. Okay. I just happen to know about science. My scientific knowledge goes even deeper than that. I know that cellular activity began with sperm in a man and an egg in a woman. So I now, speaking to the men out there, say that if you are going to fall back on that belief of of the cellular life beginning, then you need to go further back as well, which means no more. You better not be masturbating or ejaculating outside of procreation, which, in fairness, many religions do. But this is where we're making a hypocrisy checklist, because a lot of the people, if you're going to fall back on some of those very highly conservative religious values, you better be living them out on a daily basis. And I just have a feeling that there's a lot of chronic masturbators out there trying to tell women what to do with their bodies, falling back on the basis of when life starts at the cellular level. And I'm telling you, you're out there killing like millions of little guys.
Millions. Y'all are mass murderers. By your own definition.
And as far as I'm aware, women aren't actually committing murder to the degree that men are in that case when they're pleasuring themselves.
They're not at all, actually. Just so for people who don't fully understand basic science, we have millions of potential lives. They have one. Okay? So when you and you don't, women don't drop eggs when they come, also, dumbass men, if y'all didn't know that, right? So just to be clear, y'all are out there defining life at conception. When I'm going to take it a step backwards, if that's how you define it, then life started when you bought that chick her first drink at the bar, okay? That's when life started, because that was the beginning of the life cycle, all right? So if you want to take it, I'll take it to the next level. We need to make masturbation illegal, Piz, right? Because that way, men can understand how it feels to have something that they do regulated by the government when the government has no business regulating that particular action. And I don't, the debate between conception versus implantation, which I think is the word, I might be fucking that up, but like the way that the pills work is it prevents the fertilized egg from implanting. right? So if you're saying that as soon as sperm touches egg that that's a baby, then I take issue with you, because there's no way to know when that happens. It happens at different rates for different people, but the implantation step is the step where it actually starts to grow into the child. Am I right about this? Am I somewhere close to accurate on this?
We need a more high level birth scientist than me
Look,
on this one. But
honestly,
you sound right to
it
me. You
doesn't
sound
matter.
fairly right to me.
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not important. It's not important to my argument, because the argument stands. Y'all motherfuckers are murdering millions according to your own definition, because all of those little things could be babies that you're squirting into your fucking gym socks. All right.
Now again, I'm gonna beat this caveat out there. This is my little legal disclaimer. I'm gonna beat it down continuously so that people understand. Dude, shut up. It took me a minute to see what you were doing there, you dirty bastard.
My bad.
Anyway. So, point is, my disclaimer. I am not attacking anybody for their belief on one side or the other of this aisle. But we are calling out the hypocrites. Calling out the hypocrites. All right. Or giving you a checklist. You, man. Giving you a checklist to not be a hypocrite. Go ahead.
We got to talk about the Second Amendment people, because a lot of those are the same people that are beating this drum, right? Now, the Second Amendment in and of itself, I got no problem with words on paper. I have a problem with the interpretation of the words on paper, which some people have taken to mean I can own as many guns and as many bullets as I want, and I don't have to, I don't even need a background check. Like, I don't need anything to protect other people. And this is the whole problem. Because your whole argument is, well, we're pro-life because we want to protect people who don't have voices to protect themselves. You know who doesn't have voices to protect themselves? The little 9-year-old girl who gets shot by a stray bullet. She didn't have a chance to protect herself. She needs to be protected too. Why aren't y'all working that hard to protect those people who are already living, to your point, Pizzle, right? Who have already passed our life determination. So there's no confusion about whether it's a life or not a life. This is a child. Why aren't y'all trying to protect those people? Why aren't you trying to protect, people from getting gunned down who go to a concert in Las Vegas, right? From some psycho who decides to illegally alter the guns that are currently legal so that he can shoot from his hotel window, right? Talk to me about cognitive dissonance on that level, where you're pro-gun, but you're pro-life. There's something fundamentally broken right there, bro. I need a drink on that one.
And that, yeah, I see that one. That one got you worked up too. Ooh. But you just took me into one of my next ones. It's like you in my brain here. I have written down on my list, you better not believe in lethal self-defense.
Word.
Because you obviously don't believe in taking a life to save a life in situations where there is a threat to one's life. Now, the reason I say that is because, again, after taking the time to educate myself, and even I already knew this to an extent, but re-educating myself in the last week or so on not only the long and sad history, but the present state of affairs as it pertains to maternal death rates, even in our own country that is one of the most civilized countries. Sorry, I actually hate when people use the term civilized for that, but we are one of the most technologically advanced modern societies on the planet, and we still have deplorable maternity death rates and prenatal care provisions, right? So if you believe in lethal self-defense, then that is at odds, and should again, cognitive dissonance should come into play if you are of the belief that you should dictate to women what they can or cannot do in a certain situation regarding this whole topic.
Thank you.
Now, also to take it further, going back to what I was talking about before, that basically we're getting at the heart that if you care as much about lives that already exist on this planet, that if you care, that you should care, excuse me, as much about lives that already exist on this planet as those that are not existing independently and self-sufficiently, like I said before. Which means you should probably care about your own life to the degree of the life that you are saying you care, these lives that you're saying you care so much about. So,
Right. You should be drinking
first
beet
off,
juice with carrots and ginger, and not
yeah, exactly,
beer.
and not beer. So you better not drink and drive, because that is statistically shown to be putting other people's lives at risk. So I
Yes.
can't see you out there drinking and driving if you want to go telling women what to do about
Right.
this. You also, while we're at it, you better not drink alcohol, because
Period.
people fought hard to repeal prohibition laws so the government couldn't tell them what to do with their own bodies. And that alcohol is a pure toxin that you are doing damage to your own life with. Right?
Toxin.
I also kind of probably like on a more kind of like residual impact level, I also need to see your name on a list to adopt a child.
Word. Yo, Piz,
Um,
one of my homegirls, she went to one of the protests in Michigan.
mhm,
And they're
mhm.
out there with their dumbass signs talking about protect unborn life, blah blah blah. So she asked every single person there, have you adopted anybody? Have you adopted anybody? You adopted any kids? She asked every single person. Not a one. Not a one. Either they
Yeah.
wouldn't answer or they were like, "Get out of my face." So thank you. Continue, because that's the real
And
shit.
I say that, and I like that. It may sound like I'm like joking a little bit when I say, but like that one is like one that like I firmly believe. Like I said, it's okay for you to have the belief you have, but that is the next logical step. If you feel so strongly about this, you have to take a look at what it means, the impact of what you want to occur in society means there's going to be a lot more children. If these people felt so strongly that they needed to make a decision to terminate that life, that's not something that people do like willy-nilly. That's not something anyone ever wants to do. So you may have many more people who, if they felt that they couldn't sufficiently and appropriately care for that life in the first place, then they're going to be a lot more people who are going to then be putting those children that are born into adoption homes, foster care, etc. Right?
We'll call
So
it bad
please,
situation.
please, if you are out there expressing that view, please take that seriously. Like, actually look into like what can you do to then help with some of the residual fallout that the impact that'll have in other ways. All right.
Right.
Now moving on to some of my other ones. You know what? Let's just get to something that we can all feel here on this one. Because we were saying that you better not that you better care for your life as much as you care about these lives that haven't been born yet that you're talking about. So you can't be against the portion control on sodas and the healthy school meal mandates that people have tried to roll out. Like when people were up in arms about Bloomberg talking about the sodas and Michelle Obama trying to get the healthy school meal programs. And while you're at that, you better not be frequenting all these buffets and fast food joints. I'm not a fast food guy, but I'm a buffet. I'm a buffet addict. I love me a buffet, bro. So I can't be out there telling the ladies what to do with their bodies when I'm out there filling myself up with that sodium and fat that I know is going to kill me.
Right. Well, I mean, dude, why don't we should have government mandated exercise programs, right? Why don't we just go full on fucking Gilead and just regulate everything? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not there's a lot of, and I will take issue, like there are a lot of Democrats on TV talking about the slippery slope. And I just want to say, shut the fuck up. Because we have enough to deal with this one issue than to be worrying about Republicans trying to take away all of our rights. You Democratic politicians, shut up and focus, because this problem that we're dealing with right now, it's your fault. Y'all should have taken this issue more seriously before Trump. Okay? Before the Republicans decided that they were going to hold a Supreme Court seat hostage. And now we're in a situation where human beings' civil rights are being threatened. And this is to your point from earlier. You and I are both men, but we can speak confidently on issues of civil rights because civil rights are civil rights, regardless of which group you ascribe to, right? So yeah, we're both Black. We're both passionate about Black civil rights. I'm passionate about all civil rights. And this is one of the few instances, again, we do want to emphasize it hasn't happened yet. But if the Supreme Court actually rolls back a human right, it will be the first time that that's ever happened. And it's important for us to recognize that as a thing. If we are the kinds of human beings that we continue to try to tell the rest of the world that we are, I'm talking about Americans, because we spread the concept of American freedom everywhere. We want everybody to be like us. If y'all don't understand that the difference between the left and the right now is so great, and it's almost as sharp as the divide between the religious and the secular, just bringing our whole argument back together. America has one of the sharpest divides out of all Western nations between people who think the country should operate in a more religious fashion, right? I mean, dramatically higher. According to recent reports, 19 percentage points higher than the next closest Western nation, okay? If this is to be believed, then what we're really witnessing is a minority of Americans experiencing a sense of movement toward a secular society, and this is the backlash. We can't let America become secular, so we have to install more religious doctrine into our legal atmosphere. It's cognitive dissonance in a state that is built on this concept of a constitution, which is very clear about stating the separation between church and state.
I go, since I'm not an alarmist like you, but or I'm not as alarmist as you. In fact, like, if anybody who's been listening to us for all these weeks knows, like, I don't get alarmed. I get intrigued, and then I let my mind run wild with the what ifs, kind of like what ifs, like the theoretical stuff, and then I let you get alarmist on my behalf. But let's say what if, because I did see a lot. I saw some of these alarmist posts that you're talking about people being like, well, then they're going to take away all the rights and we're going to be at civil war again. So I was reading that stuff. And while I was reading that stuff, I told you all at the beginning of the podcast, I'm in the final stages right now of recovery from my second fight with COVID. Right. And those first couple of days you got COVID, man, you feel your mortality a little bit. And then I'm reading all these people talking about this is going to be the end of all of these rights and we're going to be at civil war again. I was like, Justin going to get mad at me, but how the hell am I not supposed to be thinking, what am I going to do if we now end up in civil war and everybody's fighting and it's a freaking apocalyptic situation again?
Here we go.
So, and when this really hit home for me, what were you gonna say?
They're ready for this already. The people are ready for this.
So anybody who's been through this, not even COVID, if you just gone to the doctor for any illness, like she hit me with, after I got the test, she saw that like, yeah, I tested positive, I got the symptoms, and luckily she's like, your symptoms are mild, you're vaccinated, you're boosted, you're gonna be all right. She was like, you don't need any like of these mega new treatments, but get your over the counter medications of preference. Yeah, treat your symptoms, get a lot of rest, a lot of fluids, you'll be all right. So, got me thinking. If this apocalyptic civil war modern day situation breaks out now because of all this crap going down,
Right.
and you and I we've watched all these movies about this shit. There's always a scene in every one of these movies where they got to get to town and raid the pharmacy,
Right. Right.
right? To get the medical supplies.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you're getting your Band-Aids, you're getting your alcohol, you're getting your Benadryl or whatever, you're getting your gauze, all that stuff. We're not going to worry about any of those wraps and topical stuff. But I
Okay.
want to know, you are trying to survive, and you get to build your own pack. You ain't got to worry about anybody else. You ain't, for this. Everybody got it, but like all we got room for now after all that other stuff you gathered and the food you gathered and all this stuff. You got room for 3 oral medications to get you the longest time to live in this apocalypse and survive. And we're gonna call this one. This one is definitively a zombie apocalypse. In case that
Oh, all right.
matters, right? So
Okay.
this is gonna be another zombie apocalypse.
All right. Okay.
What 3 oral medications? This can be over the counter, pharmaceutical grade, etc. For you, Justin Turner, to be able to maximize your survival potential in this scenario. What are you putting in your pack?
All right. All right. The first one is easy. Anybody who knows me personally knows that I'm allergic to the entire planet. So
truth.
I gotta get some allergy meds. And my allergy med of choice happens to be Alavert, which is it's dissolvable and it solves most of my problems.
Wait, first of all, did you just say your medicine of choice is me?
Yes, I take
Did you say
Don
Elavert?
I take Don Elaverts. The shit really is called Alavert though. And you know, as an allergy avert, very clever, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it's I would definitely try to find some of that shit. Either that or the Flonase, whichever one I can get. I'm getting one of those allergy joints. You did say oral though. Flonase goes up the nose, so
I believe that's. Is that oral? Or is that's olfactoral?
Yeah, is that a word?
Olfactoral. I know nose stuff is olfactory gland like stuff, but like
I'll go with the Alavert.
Somebody's gonna have to help us with that one.
I'll stick with the rules. I'll go with the Alavert.
Okay.
2. We talked about this.
It's nasal, not olfactoral. Why are we coming up with complicated words for something?
Yeah, nasal. My bad. Yeah, olfactory is about smell, right? Not necessarily about the nose itself.
I think so.
All right. Anyway, second, I'm going with. Oh yeah, we talked about this when you told me you had COVID. I was like, yo, you get that Theraflu?
Yeah. And I was like, bro, I just told you I got COVID. I ain't got the flu.
Word. Theraflu is my shit because it tastes like tea. I love hot drinks when I'm sick. So, you know, in the apocalypse, you can still boil water. So I'm going with the Theraflu. Oh, I should also mention that Alavert, like you said, zombie apocalypse. God forbid I fucking sneeze or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that'd be the dumbest way to fucking die in the apocalypse because you sneeze. So
oh wait, so actually you might be all right. You might do all right in a zombie apocalypse, but one of these days I got to hit you with a quiet place apocalypse. One of them joints, like you're in trouble.
All right, I got 2. I need one more. Let's see.
All right, so you got Alavert, and what was your other one?
And the Theraflu.
And the Theraflu. Okay, what's in the Theraflu? Do you know? Like what's actually like?
there's a lot of shit. I know acetaminophen is the active ingredient, but
Okay.
there's like a bunch of joints in there.
Okay.
Third, I'm going with some kind of anti-inflammatory. So I'll take some kind of ibuprofen. I'll take Advil. There we
Okay.
go. Nah, fuck that. I'll take Excedrin, because Excedrin also has caffeine in it. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're in the apocalypse, dehydration might be an issue. Dehydration causes headaches. Excedrin will handle that. I'm good. I'm good.
Is Excedrin an anti-inflammatory? I didn't realize that.
Excedrin is what the hell is it? It's I think it's acetaminophen plus caffeine, if I'm not mistaken. One of those.
I got no
It's
idea.
one of those shits plus
Luckily,
caffeine. Whatever. I'm taking that.
Luckily, knock on wood, I'm one of these people who doesn't really get headache. Like, if you ever hear me say I got a headache, like, there's a problem. Like, and that's what, actually, funny enough, I knew something was wrong about earlier in the week when I got a headache. I was like, because luckily I'm not like,
and it wasn't a hangover.
I got enough other physical ailments, but like, and my lady suffers from migraine. So it's funny, when we talked about, she and I talked about this topic, she had like, she's one of them people who, like, a migraine medicine is a must. Like, it has to come. Otherwise she's not going to make it. Right. That's why I thought this is an interesting question, because it's very, you would think this would be something that people would universally agree upon, what's needed, but it's very, this is where you find out everybody got something that you don't even know they pop into something for.
Word.
So,
all right, go for it.
And just so people know, Justin wasn't exaggerating when he said he's allergic. Like, I get a pet dog. This dude's like, I can't. You gotta let me know you got a dog, because I gotta take my allergy medicine to get a dog. I'm like, all right, my bad. I got a dog, and then I don't have the dog, and then I get a cat. This dude's like, I'm allergic to cats. I'm like, okay. and then I ain't got a dog or a cat, but I'm eating some shrimp fried rice, and this dude's like, I can't be around you if you haven't shellfish and stuff, because if that touches my air.
Word. It's real, people. Y'all don't know the struggle. It's real. Some of y'all know, but it's real, man. I got the whole world trying to kill me. Like, silent.
That's the problem.
Death.
Like, God made you mad tough on the outside, so he's like, I'm gonna have to make you.
I'm
weak
bitch made on the inside. Word. I am. It's terrible. It's fucking terrible.
Oh, Lordy. All right. To wrap this up, here's what I'm going with. So, you know me, I got my love for pickup basketball took a toll on me, so I got a surgically repaired knee and ankle. So, I both got some arthritic shit going on, so I need an anti-inflammatory as well, right? I'm rolling with Aleve, or I'm going to try. I'm hoping we in a pharmacy where I could get like the pharmaceutical grade naproxen sodium, which is basically Aleve on, but just like the strong one.
Steroids.
Because that joint is because that is actually you could take that more long term than Advil, from what I say. Yo, and if you listening to this and taking anything we're saying as like medical advice, like, then you haven't learned anything about anything we talk about. Like, please,
Facts.
this is not. There's a reason this pod isn't called WebMB Dorm, right?
All right, good.
So next, there's always a situation, like, usually when they're raiding the pharmacy in these movies, for some reasons, because nobody thought to go to raid the pharmacy until somebody got a deep infected wound that is about to go septic, and they're gonna have sepsis. For y'all that don't know that, I know that phrase not only because of being familiar with medicine, because I almost died, and then almost luckily was saved from having to have my leg amputated because I sprained it. It got infected in college, and it went septic, and basically that's when you have like an internal flesh-eating bacterial infection. It's nasty. It's painful. Left me with no cartilage in my ankle. So, lesson learned. We gotta have some. I need some generalized antibiotic. I need an own, an ain, an een, or a cillin of some type that we can pop like Tic Tacs and prevent sepsis.
Word, I got
Okay.
you. Yeah.
And then like I know we're coming out of probably still in an opioid crisis in this country. So I'm not promoting frivolous use of opioids, but in this situation that we talking about, I'm gonna need a maximum strength painkiller of some type in case, like, who knows, I sprained my bad ankle, right? And the anti-inflammatories ain't helping. Like, I need something strong. I think I'm gonna grab some Percocets, specifically because this is where I'm getting a little scientific on people and taking a medicine that is a combination, because that one is not only got the opioid painkiller in it, but it also has acetaminophen mixed in, which will also, if anybody gets feverish, it can treat that too. So I'm gonna go for a 2-in-1 with that Percocet, and that's gonna go in my pack.
Word. Shout out to Future
And
Percocet.
oh Lord, didn't I just say we're not promoting the frivolous use of Percocet?
My bad. Couldn't resist.
Exactly. But shout out to hopefully not needing to use anything we just came up with to actually survive the future.
Word. Shout out to scientists who are obviously going to invent the fucking virus that becomes the zombies. As we were defending scientists earlier. Fuck you, scientists.
Coming full circle, we shout out to the scientists and we predict the future and hate scientists. No, just kidding. We love the scientists. And to wrap it all up, speaking about predicting the future, one thing I realized, just for those of y'all loyal listeners of this pod, if you listen to this pod, you realize that, like, while JT and I are having some fun, and some intellectual / sophomoric banter about these things, like, I don't know, man, we might be futurists. We might, like, I'm Haitian. I got that voodoo in my ancestry. Like, if you listen to this podcast, you probably just heard in the last week that Kyrie, after they got eliminated, you probably heard him refer to himself as a martyr. I believe we had a conversation talking about the fact that that's not the case before he ever even said that. And then you heard us on the last episode of the podcast, if you listen to it, having a conversation about some people thinking where progress for some people is defined as regressing back to the way things were. And it appears that is what some people literally might have listened to our podcast and been like, all right, let's do this. Right. and they got after literally dialing back some of our constitutional rights. So Word. I'm just hoping that JT and I are not as good at predicting the future as we think. Otherwise, y'all best to start making your apocalypse survival packs. And that Word. Is another episode of the B Dorm Podcast.
Woo.
We out.
Have a good one, people.
All right. Excuse me. Pardon me. I still got that residual COVID cough. So anyway, what's up with science? Someone needs to make an even stronger Ricola than the Ricolas I've been having.